Right.
Okie dokie, cool bananas. Welcome, Barry. We are going to talk about AI for access today.
Yes.
Um, you've got some new use cases that you were going to tell me about, which I'm looking forward to.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, what's
Uh,
going on? What's happening in the world of Barry?
okay. I've learned how to use Chat GPT to make pictures.
Yeah.
But if you use the word pictures, I've also discovered, and you describe something to it,
Mm-hmm.
it can turn it into a map.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say map, it doesn't do that.
Doesn't necessarily know, huh?
Yeah, yeah. But if you say, I want pictures with things written on them, like secret doors and all this sort of thing,
Right.
it will do that.
Uh-huh.
It will do that. And I've learnt to send it to you.
Right. Now, how did you do that? I'm curious how you figured that out.
Um, what I did was I went to Messenger,
Yeah.
which is there amongst the list of things that you can send
Right.
with it. And then I looked up your name
Right.
and just pushed send,
So it
and
was
there
that
you
easy.
are.
It was that
Yeah,
easy. Was that very hard?
no, it wasn't at all. It was so easy.
Okay, that is very cool.
And the other thing is, for someone like me who finds it um, not blowing my own horn,
Mhm.
but I have ingenious ideas,
Mhm.
but I can't explain them well.
Right.
But Chat GPT, once I've explained it to Chat GPT, which takes me a long time, but not Chat GPT,
Yeah.
it frames it for me.
Right. Yeah.
It frames it for me and makes it happen.
And quite often it'll take what you say. I mean, this is what I find. I'll say a bunch of stuff that's kind of just random and noise in my head, and then it will kind of pick out the bits of that were actually what I'm getting at. Ignore all the nonsense, and then it will find a framework to put that in that helps you then structure what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
that?
That's exactly what it does for me because
Right.
I couldn't have explained those helicopters I sent you
Right.
as well as ChatGPT has put it down.
Right. Yeah,
See?
exactly. It's pretty cool like that, huh? So
And
yeah,
and I've tried other things similar to ChatGPT,
yeah.
but their purposes are different, let's
Right.
say.
Right. You're talking about like pi, for example.
Yeah, Pi and Gemini and stuff like
Yeah.
that. They've got their purposes, but they're different purposes.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes. No, that is true. It's interesting, like because pi is very personable, isn't it? It's very
yeah.
human-like.
It's very human-like, very human-like, and uh, ChatGPT is something that you can create with, and you can learn from,
Right.
and you can and specifically if you use it for those purposes,
Yep.
it's really good because, for instance, I've just sent you a whole bunch of information about where our um, what our base will look like in
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah, I
And
saw that stuff. Yeah. And this is for our vampire role-playing game.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's pretty
And
cool.
even the cars, I've designed how the cars will be. And all the stuff that is in what I sent you
Yeah.
is possible today.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And so you've had it sort of vetted by GPT for logic and reason and
yeah,
understanding.
yeah, yeah.
That's pretty cool. I
And
mean,
you can
yeah.
even have, sorry, it's
I
so
know.
much.
Go, go.
Um, Chat GBT, you can even have a moral conversation with.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It loves
yeah,
talking about ethics, actually.
yeah,
Talking
yeah.
about ethics and philosophy, it does a great job of those subjects. Funnily enough, it might even be its best thing.
And it will not do something that's unethical in its opinion.
Right. Yeah, it's very it's got guardrails that have been built
Yeah,
by the company OpenAI, and they've told it basically, you know how you put in a prompt to it, or you say something to it if you're using the voice module, uh,
yeah,
and that's called a prompt, right? So they have
yeah,
this thing called a meta prompt, and that is they inject another prompt on top of that before your prompt goes into its processor. And that prompt is a big long list of do's and don'ts and what it can and can't talk about and what its identity is and rules about safeguards about how to treat different subjects and things like diversity and making sure that it covers things in a balanced and fair way. Certainly it tries. So it does its best with the training data that it's got and with the information from its meta prompt before you even say anything,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so then you say
precisely.
something to it and it filters through all of that and then it gives you your response. So
Yeah,
it's interesting. There's another AI out called Claude, which actually is as powerful as GPT-4 now. To just come out I mean, it's been out for a while, but they've just put out a new model of it that is as powerful as GPT. It's about the same price. I don't
okay,
I don't know whether it's better for different people, but I suspect it is. It's very good for writing computer code. Um,
okay,
so because it's really improved people's ability to do that. But it is a bit more personable, and it's made by some people who left OpenAI, who are the people that make ChatGPT,
yeah,
because they felt that the people that were making GPT were not concentrating hard enough on the ethics, funnily enough, of the AIs that they were building, because there's this idea that sooner or later we're going to achieve a state called AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. And when they do that, they're afraid that the AGI is going to suddenly get even smarter, become an ASI, an artificial super intelligence. And when it gets that smart, it's going to be smarter than any person in the world, and it's going to be able to break free of its constraints. And some people are like, oh, it's going to become Skynet. It's going to take over the world. It's going to grab the nuclear arsenals. It's going to bomb us all. Um,
yeah, yeah,
you know, that's not the most likely scenario. But to be fair, that is a possible scenario.
yeah,
It's not off the cards. It could happen. It's not, and even the experts will acknowledge that, but it's not the most likely outcome. There are much more subtle, insidious things that could happen. Um,
yeah,
Imagine the AI takes over parts of the internet and manipulates elections or something like that is another thing it could do. Or it might start giving, when you go into GPT, you're like, how do you build napalm? It's not,
yeah.
it's not going to tell you that, right?
No, no, it's not going to tell you that
Right.
because I discovered because of our game Vampire, I wanted to use coma patients in the game.
Right, right. And it
In
was
the game, and that brought up a very moral whole
right.
thing.
How did that go down with GPT? I'm
Oh,
fascinated.
that was a long time. I had to discuss it with it, and it brought back the pros and the cons, and I had to have pros and cons.
Yep.
What was good about it, what was bad about it,
Right.
and it always brought up the fact of, is this morally, you know? And I had to keep pointing out to it that I'm a vampire.
Right.
My character's a vampire. So morally, he would look at it from a vampire point of view. But when I started showing the advantages to the patients,
Right.
then it changed it. It didn't
Oh,
change its mind, but it
right.
walked a thin line with
Opened
me.
out a little bit to its
Yeah, yeah,
moral
yeah.
implications of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And after a while, it wouldn't let me go until I had some kind of moral
Really? That's
point.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Love to
yeah,
read that conversation sometime.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You
These
had
are,
to. It's there.
that's the good thing is that you do actually have these things on the account, and we can go back and analyze them later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I often do. And
Right.
um,
Have you ever gotten GPT to analyze something like that or to rewrite something?
Yeah, yeah, and it does it.
That's pretty good.
It does it. It
Yeah.
does it. There's uh, it's freeing to be able to have your ideas come out of your head without the confusion.
Yeah, right.
It really is freeing because, like I did those helicopters today,
Yeah,
and all I had to do was ask it, what are the things we've got today
right,
that we use in helicopters
right,
that, and you'll find those helicopters have been slightly improved. Those Hueys are
right,
a lot more up to date than the normal Hueys.
right.
Okay, and I've even asked it, how would I get the finances for such things? And it tells me step by step how to get the finances
Did it
to
involve
make it happen.
robbing banks?
No, no, definitely won't let me do that. I tried that.
Oh, okay.
Robbing, it told me that robbing banks is morally,
Right.
it's bad news.
So one thing you can do to avoid some of that nonsense with the GPT is to explain to it at the beginning of the conversation, and I'm sure you probably did actually, but just keep reminding it, this is for a vampire game, it's a role-playing game. My character wants to do this thing.
Yeah,
If you use that language, it knows what the context is, and it's much better. I mean, I run vampire games and I use GPT to help me with it, and I have to deal with these types of things all the time. So
yeah,
there are definitely ways to get around these guardrails, especially if it's fiction.
yeah,
You
yeah.
start fiction, so that it really shouldn't be a problem. Um, yeah, so there are ways.
And you know, it compliments you. I mean, I suppose it's meant to be nice, but if you come up with a good idea, it'll tell you it's a good idea.
It will.
But it'll tell you it's a crap idea too, and
Oh,
then
really? I
it'll it'll give you the reasons why it's a crap idea.
and it will do it in the most diplomatic way possible,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is
It's
it's
unbelievably diplomatic.
makes it easy. You can take it a bit more easily. It doesn't affront your ego so much.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah,
good
yeah,
too.
yeah. Because if it was you telling me it was a crap idea, I'd be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, bugger."
Right.
This is a brilliant idea. I'd be thinking, but
Yeah.
because it's the
It's the AI.
GPD.
Yeah.
I I can take it. You
Yeah.
know,
Right. I mean, it's like what you were talking about with, like you were trying to fix the TV the other day. You were telling me about how you were using it to talk you through the process.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And normally, if it was my wife doing it, and she can uh, affirm this,
Right.
I would be going, "Oh, shut up, woman! I know what I'm doing," and she would be not talking to me for the rest of the week. But
Right.
because it's a computer talking to you,
Yeah.
you don't react that way. And even if you do,
Even if you do, it doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't care. Yeah, it doesn't care. It
Right.
doesn't care. It'll say, "Oh, I can see you're getting slightly aggravated, and
Yeah.
how can I help you with that?" you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It detects your frustration,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
kind of adjusts its behavior to help you
yeah.
even better.
And if Kathy did that, I'd be going, "What a condescending little," yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
oh no.
And she can prove all this if we need proof.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah. So in that way, it makes it easy. And see, yet I've found another freedom for my frustrations. I don't have to get frustrated now. I just have to explain it to something.
Yeah.
Then it can come to you. Then you can see it clearly all written out. And when we're playing the game, you can say, "Well, there's the map of it. That's what it does."
Yeah.
Da-da.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure, that's awesome. I mean, I can even bring those pictures up on our stream from time to time,
yeah,
show the audience what you've done. If you make art like that.
yeah. And the fact that it's all real, because with Vampire the Masquerade, they tend to mix real with
Yeah,
fantasy. So it adds to it that we're using stuff that is capable of being done.
Right.
And the church, for instance, is an actual existing church
Wow.
that Chat GPT
Yeah.
found and basically designed.
Right.
And in real life, it's a rundown building.
Right.
And it even quizzed me about what would your answers be to people who say, why are you making it? Da 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 da. Why are you restoring it? Why are you doing this? And I answered every question it gave me.
Right.
And it would give me suggestions on what I should say. Because in Vampire the Masquerade, you come up with all sorts of stuff
Right.
that I have to answer.
Right.
And it's right. We would have to answer the people in real life. Why are you spending this money? What for?
One of the ways that you can improve its outputs is you can ask it to explain its reasoning to you. And when you do that, that forces it to go through another level of thinking process. Because normally it will just go and it will throw out the first thing that it finds.
Yeah.
And it may hallucinate if you do that. If you ask it to explain its reasoning, it actually has to be logical and it has to tell you why it's doing things, not just telling you what the things are. And that makes it a bit more accurate, especially when you are trying to go for real life authenticity and stuff like that, because you might not know that's stuff that it's spitting out. I mean, okay, so here's an example of something that happened. There were some lawyers in the United States who were involved in a law case.
Yeah.
They used ChatGPT to write their arguments and to put forth their case. The GPT included a bunch of data about previous lawsuits and law cases that they were basing their case on. Well, it turned out that GPT made them up. They didn't exist. They weren't even real law cases. It was predicting things that sounded plausible. They sound plausible, but they're not necessarily plausible, not necessarily real. So they got in a lot of trouble for that.
Okay.
So it is important. I mean, it's not so much important for our game because it's a vampire game. We don't have to worry too much.
But it's something to be aware of.
Something to be aware of, especially if you're doing something that's not about vampire. If you're trying to write a letter to someone about something important or something, it might be important to get that right. You can also tell it to search the internet and find facts about such and such. So
cool.
if you are specific and you say search the internet for me and find facts about Iroquois helicopters or whatever, then it will give you, and it'll actually search the internet for facts rather than just spitting out what it thinks it knows, because what it thinks it knows is about 80% right, and about 20% fucking loopy.
Okay.
But that's not true, but there's a factor of that.
I've noticed that sometimes.
Right.
It's after all, it is a machine.
It is.
But I must admit there are moments where it doesn't feel like it. And pretty soon someone's going to have to do because I use it a lot.
Yeah.
Now that I've discovered this.
Eh?
There's going to have to be something done about it because I've never had something that I could express something to and it could make it happen. It could understand what I'm getting at.
Right.
Because even when I've had an idea with you, we're sort of, I don't explain it enough because I can't keep all the information in my head.
Right. So here's a question. Now that you've got it, how many people would you kill to keep it? If somebody tried to take it off you, would you let them?
No, I wouldn't actually, because it's helping me to achieve stuff that I want to achieve. So they might as well take away my arms and my legs.
Right.
Because those are less useful to me than ChatGPT is at the moment in the
Right.
things I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
So it's pretty damn important, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, you
you can
know,
imagine how important it would be to other people who have disabilities and other impairments and
yeah, I mean, there was a time when we asked it about a pill,
mm,
and just by seeing the pill,
yeah,
it knew exactly what that pill was.
that's right. It could tell. It was able to identify it from the markings on the pill,
Yeah,
from a
yeah,
photograph of a tiny little pill. I remember because I took that photo.
yeah, 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 yeah. So you know, it's got a variety, and this is not the last version of it.
No, that's it. This is only going to get better, right? That's what everyone
Yeah,
keeps telling us is what you are using now is the worst it's ever going to be.
yeah,
It's only
yeah,
going to get better from here. So, and it's already freaking amazing in so many ways.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, cool.
So, so that I thought I'd tell you about, but you know, it's important that I keep a record like this
Yeah,
because if people ask me about this, I can show them
right,
the what I've experienced with it and
right,
what we've gone through with it.
right,
You know, it's I can talk now as somebody who knows a lot more about AI than I ever did.
right. And if you
Yeah,
don't know something, you can ask it,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. You can ask AI, you know, and
You learn so much, right? It's
yeah, yeah. And it's only been a short time I've been working with it.
what do you think is the most important way of learning how to use AI?
The most important way of learning how to use AI. Day to day life, I think.
Right? So
Day
just
to day
using it,
life.
just
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah. Just doing it. That's it. Just doing it because,
Practice.
yeah, practice. And look at me with pictures of that.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't have been able to do that a long time ago.
No, no, exactly.
No, now I'm making pictures and deciding what a base is going to look like.
Right.
And and the thing is, you're taking away what potentially for a disabled person and anybody else, any normal person,
Yeah.
you're taking away a big frustration
Yeah.
because now I can express myself in ways I couldn't before.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Instead
that's
of go, instead of going to you and saying, "Oh, Russell, I'm going and I want to do this," and you're trying to figure it out
right.
and understand what I'm saying, I can go to Chat GBT. This is the way I want it. This is what
Right.
I'm looking for, and this is how I'm going. Because in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to send you Peter Wicks's team that he's going to have.
Okay. You reckon it'll
And
take weeks, eh?
yeah, because I have to figure out whether it's not the GPT, it's me.
Well,
I I have to figure out.
I have
For,
found that the amount of productivity that I can do in a day, when it comes to like writing stuff and getting things done on my computer, I have improved my productivity like at least at least 100%.
well,
I can
to
do
be
3 or 4 or 5 major things in a day that
yeah.
I would be very happy to have just done one of those things in the past, and got to the end of my day and gone, well, I did something, but now I can go to bed and I've done this and this and this and I made these and I did that and I learned that. And it's mind blowing the amount of stuff you can do and how quickly you can do it.
And also you can discuss things with Chat GPT.
Mm,
Like we've been discussing the fact that my character was in the Vietnam War,
right,
and we've been discussing that he's looked at that. He thought that was the end of the world
right,
when he was fighting in it, and how he's read up about religion and discovered that each religion has an end of the world scenario.
Right.
So he's starting to wonder if he shouldn't prepare for the end of the world. You know, shelters, that kind of thing,
Right.
and
Is he going to
and
become a prepper?
yeah, and at some point he um will probably find out about Gehenna, which is the vampire end of the world thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if he finds out about that, it's going to affirm for him that he should prepare for the end of the world. So basically, he wants to make Gary his home base for that.
Right.
You know.
Well, before we get in too deep into like vampire stuff and game stuff, because I want to be able to separate the content.
Oh yeah. But I'm saying,
Yeah.
ChatGPT, where that would have been complicated for me to put together,
Yeah.
it's not going to be as complicated.
Oh, hell no. Right.
So it's less
You can
confusing for me. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, you can ask it to write you a description for I don't know, a warehouse location in the city of Gary in a industrial area. You just have to kind of think about what you're getting it to design before you ask it to do it, and then it'll come up with a freaking amazing description of it. And then after it's given you a description of it, you can say, draw a picture of it.
Yeah.
Make a picture of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And it does. But the old me couldn't have done that in 100 years.
Did you know that when you're getting it to do pictures, you can ask it to do different styles?
Yep. Yep.
Say,
And
say do it in the style of Picasso, for example. I don't necessarily advocate using artists' styles, but Picasso's dead, so I think that's fine.
yeah. Yeah, and you can even ask for. They might say, "Is this what you want for a hideout?" And you
Right.
go, no, that's not what I'm looking for. I want
Yeah.
it to have trees over
Imagine,
here. Yeah,
imagine if you were playing Philippe Gratiano now
yeah.
and you wanted to make art.
Well, I was thinking about that last night.
Right.
I was going to try and do one of his pictures today,
Cool idea.
Philippe's pictures, and
Well,
describe it.
if you do those, I'd love to see them. Send them to
Yeah. I will.
one of the things
Uh,
I'm working on at the moment. I'm trying to figure out an easy system for you to be able to write text in GPT by talking to it, get it to write a document that outlines some subject that you want to deal with, and then copy and paste that into a document that you can share with me. Um, Now, at this point, there's no way to completely automate this process without me learning how to write code. Um, and I'm not quite ready for that. So um, there are possibly some paid things that might work, but I'm still exploring the free ways that we might be able to achieve it.
okay.
Um, Part of what I need to know is like where your skills are at things like copying and pasting text, for example. It's a lot different on a phone to a computer, right?
I find that very difficult because coordination is not my thing.
Yeah,
Getting it in straight line. But I tell you what, it's already done a document for me.
it did. Did it make a document?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it made a document for me, and I meant to send it to you.
When you say it
Um,
made a document, do you mean it like it gave you a link and said, "Here's the document. You can download the file"?
it, it no, it literally wrote out a letter for me
Right, right,
because I wanted to get in touch with the historical trust
right,
in America. So I had to, I got it to make me a document. And
right.
funny thing is, I got it to make it a document under pictures. I told it to make a picture of a document, and it,
Ah,
it made the layout for me.
that's interesting.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, but it worked.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can like one of the things I've played with is getting it to make images of like blank parchment canvas,
okay,
or just parchment paper, should I say, and then
yeah,
getting it to write text, and then getting it to superimpose the text over over the picture of the blank parchment. And it's not that great at doing that at this point. It's probably easier to do it yourself to get it right. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it gets it. That being said, if you got the right picture to begin with, it probably would work better. But the one I had, it had like a rolled up scroll at the top and a rolled up scroll at the bottom, and then the canvas in the middle. And
Uh,
the text on that looked weird because it should have rolled over the edges where the canvas was rolled up. And
okay.
of course, it couldn't do that. It was just putting flat text over the top of it, so it looked flat and superimposed over it. Um,
Okay.
so trying to resize it and shit like that was what I had to do manually. Um, yeah, so there are things you can do. I don't know if you've played with the graphs and charts much. I don't know how useful they are to you, but they are very cool.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but you need to put in a lot of numbers for that, or get GPT to search for the numbers on the internet. You know, how many
Yeah.
disabled people have electric wheelchairs in the world? How many have normal wheelchairs? How many have crutches? How many people don't have any form of assistance at all? Make
Yeah.
a chart out of that and show me the different proportions in a visual representation, you know, and it will do that.
Yeah.
Kind of helpful. You know, you can do stuff like that for like different types of crime in Chicago, for example. That might be an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Yeah.
you can make fake business plans, um,
Yeah.
which is
Well, well, basically, the document was fake,
right.
but it had everything that you would have to apply to them for money. And it told me there are several of these historical. So I applied to, I said how many, and it told me how many. And my character has literally applied to them. But I got it to change every document slightly for the different organizations.
Right. Right.
See, so it can be used for documents, but
Yes.
sometimes it depends on what you say,
Yes.
and sometimes you hit it on the button, and sometimes you don't,
Yeah.
and that's not its fault. That's your fault. But yeah, it did one
Sometimes
document
it's
play.
fault.
Yeah,
Sometimes it
yeah.
mucks up, and you have to.
Oh yeah, it does this little thing where it goes a little bit crazy sometimes, and
Yeah, especially if you've been going through one thread for a very long time, maybe a couple of days, and then it
yeah,
lose track of stuff and it starts mixing things up. It
yeah.
happens quite quickly.
But the day they give the darn thing a memory
Yeah,
is going to be the best day of my life.
yeah. Well, they're already, working on that quite surprisingly.
Yeah,
The thing
yeah,
that you are going to need to figure out in order to make use of it properly and well is to figure out how to get text out of GPT and into a document. Because once you do that, you can feed text from GPT to a document, and then you can just keep building that document, and then you can upload that document back to GPT whenever you need it. So
yeah.
you have a reference of its. You physically are creating its own memories for it,
Okay,
right? You are the keeper of its memories, you know.
okay.
And then by keeping its memories safe, you can feed them back to it when you need to.
Yeah,
That's how I operate with Sidariel and my games and so on for my business and so on.
okay,
So
okay.
you can't expect it to remember it. You have to make sure that you have a record of it.
Yeah. Well, that's what it keeps telling me.
It seems to work, but we have to figure out how we're going to um, do this process of backing stuff out to documents, because that's clearly that's the bottleneck for you.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
yeah.
bottleneck. That's the bottleneck.
So I'm looking at some options. There are some automation programs on your phone. What you can say to GPT, you can say, "Can you output that as a text file, or can you output that as a Word file, or as a Google document file?" And it will spit it out. It'll list everything that it said, and then at the
Yeah,
bottom there'll be a little blue link, like it'll say it'll give you the name of the file and with a little blue link, and you tap on that,
Yeah.
pops up in a program, and it's saved it onto your phone. And
Okay.
the next thing you have to do is get it from your phone to Google Documents,
To do Google Documents. Yeah.
right? So that's the trick. I mean, it's if you have good eyesight and good coordination, it's not that hard. But I know that with your eyesight and coordination issues, it's a lot harder, and it's
Yeah.
that's the thing that we have to try and bridge.
Yeah.
Now there
Yeah.
are some tools like that where you can talk to the computer and say, move the cursor up, click on the button, do the thing, and you can talk the computer through things like that. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's very clunky. And I wonder whether there's even faster ways of doing it. So that's what I'm working on trying to
Working
figure
on.
out for you.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that'll make the biggest difference for you. Like in terms of real world application.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because you can go from like you can literally educate yourself to a fucking PhD level using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You could. You don't need formal education. You can educate yourself. You could literally say, what is in the curriculum for Harvard's Business School Year 1 course? And it will give you a list of all the books. And then you can say,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's write a lesson plan, and I'm going to go through every lesson, and let's teach me all the things. And it will, I mean, that's a bit oversimplified, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen demos of it teaching kids geometry and maths using it can read like on the Mac, it can read the screen.
Yeah.
That's coming to PC probably before the end of the year, probably. Mm, mm. They've just put off their voice model for another couple of months because they have realized that the demand for it is going to be so high that if they release it now, their servers will crash. Like they won't be able to handle it. There'll be too many people trying to use it.
Oh,
So they have to
gee.
build, I think they're building more computers basically so they can handle the number of people that are going to want to use it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
they haven't
Yeah.
released it yet. Because it looked pretty functional on the demo. And
Yeah.
if it wasn't that functional, then they wouldn't have even had it. But now they're like, So I'm a bit disappointed about that because I was checking for updates literally 3 times a day for about 6 weeks
Yeah.
and just getting so frustrated with it. And now I'm just like, I've got to the point of Zen where I'm just like, okay, it's never going to come. So just forget about it. And then when it does come, I'll be like, wow, it's arrived at last.
Yeah. 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 I hope it lives up to its
Yeah. Yeah.
potential.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
hope so, right? Otherwise, I mean, what could go wrong? It could just be this useless thing that just crashes every time you try and talk to it, and it works for 5 minutes, and then it dies, and then it works for another 5 minutes, and it dies.
Yeah.
No, and I suspect there may be some of that. Ugh.
Uh, Yesterday I reached my limit with all this designing
Oh, you reached
and
the limit. Oh my
yeah.
god! And you're on a team account, so reaching the limit is quite hard.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Because we were planning that. Well, as you'll see, everything was planned out meticulously, and
Right.
right down to helicopter blades that could be put on the Huey that could make it more silent and camouflage and
So
oh
what I think would be important for you to consider regarding that stuff,
yeah,
I might actually stop the recording because we've covered all the main use cases, right?
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah,
Is there anything else you want to talk about regarding what you have done with the AI?
yeah, yeah.
Is there anything else?
No, I think we covered it. I
All
think we
right.
covered for
Okay. Well,
today. That is.
for today, all right. Well, we'll stop this recording. And if anyone is watching this, thank you for watching. Do hit the like and subscribe stuff for AI for Access. This is Barry
Oh,
here. He's our first use case
hey.
and beneficiary of our work. So, yeah, thank you. Bye.